Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's double feature webinar, Career Advice in the 401 on Summer and Full-Time Opportunities, hosted by Brother Seldric Blocker, as well as followed by today's Start, Where You Are and Fuel for Your Journey, featuring our community managers, Ken Frazier and Brandon Mills. Today's session will be hosted by JPMorgan Chase. Again, everyone, thank you for joining us. My name is Gerald Johnson II, and I serve as the Chief Development Officer for Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporated. We are here at our 96th General Convention in Indianapolis, Indiana. We're excited for today's pre-convention events. At this time, please feel free to utilize the chats to introduce who you are. Where are you from? I know we have brothers coming from all over, brothers that are probably potentially still traveling, heading to Indianapolis to join us today. So we're excited to have you all join us this afternoon for this meeting. At this time, I would love to bring up our partner to kick us off for today's first of our two double featured webinars, Brother Seldric Blocker, who serves as the Executive Director and Head of North America Campus Recruiting, Asset and Service Delivery at JPMorgan Chase.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Brother Johnson, for the welcome. Really appreciate the opportunity to be here. Hello, brothers, and hope you all are doing well. So, like it was mentioned, my name is Seldric Blocker. I head up campus recruiting for JPMorgan's Asset and Wealth Management Division for North America. We'll talk a little bit about my background in a second, but really excited to be with you all. What I want to do today is accomplish a couple of things. Share, I think, some of the best learnings come from others' experiences. So I want to share a little bit about my experiences, my background. Obviously, we're going to highlight JPMorgan Chase, our career opportunities for those of you that are currently in school, looking for summer internships, some of you that may be graduating, talk a little bit about the timeline for that or going into your senior year. Obviously, we can answer whatever questions come through the chat about career opportunities and the like. And then also I want to give you some tips as it relates to navigating your career search, the interview process, some things that I've learned along the way. And a lot of things that I find useful for candidates. Obviously, I'm at the seat or at the table when decisions are being made on who's moving forward in the process, who is a standout candidate, who's receiving an offer. So there are a couple of things that I want to make sure that we mention to help you along your journey as you are figuring out your career search and where you may land a summer internship or a full-time opportunity. So let's talk about me for a second. And then I also want to highlight JPMorgan Chase to break down the organization and then get into some of the advice that I have. So like I mentioned, I head up campus recruiting for Asset and Wealth Management. It's one of the divisions that we'll highlight in a second within JPMorgan. Essentially, my team is responsible for hiring upwards of about 300 summer analysts across the country for a full, and then also around 300 full-time analysts and associates at the MBA level as well. So backing up to kind of a little bit about me. So I'm originally from Columbia, South Carolina, grew up there, went to Clemson University in South Carolina for undergrad. Each summer I worked for what was then First Union Bank. Now it's Wells Fargo through a couple of acquisitions through the Inroads Internship program. So I'm a very proud Inroads alum. Also, I lived in Charlotte, North Carolina, and worked for a number of organizations during my time when I was in Charlotte. So worked for, obviously, First Union Bank, Wachovia, worked for Bank of America, Lowe's Home Improvement. In 2006, I crossed into the Beta Nu Lambda chapter in Charlotte, North Carolina. So shout out to any of the brothers from BNL. And then in 2013, I moved to New York City. I was working with the Bank of America at the time. And then I was recruited to run campus recruiting, all the internship programs at NBC Universal when I was, shortly after I had gotten to New York City. So I ran campus recruiting for NBC Universal. So think the Today Show, the Tonight Show, Saturday Night Live, NBC Sports, Bravo, so on and so forth. So great opportunity. While I was at NBC, went back to grad school part-time and got a master's in human resources at Cornell University. Then NBC Universal asked me to work on an assignment in Denver, Colorado for 5 months or so, which was a phenomenal experience. And then while I was in Denver, actually, I was being recruited by JPMorgan. And so I started at JPMorgan in January of 2019 in the role that I am currently. So I've been here a little over 2.5 years or so. In New York City, I do a couple of things where I'm on the patron circle for Alvin Ailey Dance Company, dance theater. I'm also a member of Kappa Xi Lambda, the Wall Street Alpha. So shout out to Wall Street Alphas here in New York City. So a bit about me and my background, but wanted to share as I'll pull from different experiences along the way to hopefully help steer and help you as you are thinking through career moves and opportunities, so on and so forth. So why don't we pull up the slide around JPMorgan. And what I want to do is I want to basically deconstruct JPMorgan Chase as an organization. And you can do this for any organization. Many of the colleges and universities that you are attending, you can deconstruct a lot of the different opportunities in the same manner. But on the left-hand side, many of you hopefully are familiar with Chase, the consumer and community banking brand, so CCB. And then we have a couple of other businesses that will highlight our commercial bank, our corporate investment bank, asset and wealth management. So we're going to do this via story. We're going to introduce a character by the name of Tony. We're going to move through this really, really quickly because I really want to get to some of the questions that you have and get some advice to you. But we can go ahead and go to the next slide. So we're going to introduce Tony. She is our college student. She's 20 years old. She needs a bank account for basic banking needs, needs a debit card. She probably open a savings account. And so she's thinking through what she needs. So she has, like I mentioned, she's a college student. We'll say she goes to Hillman. And we can go to the next slide. So, and then we can go one more. For some of her banking needs, Tony will go to the consumer and community bank, and we'll have a placemat at the end of this where you'll see how all this fits together. But our consumer and community bank, and let me start before I get too far ahead of myself, because a lot of times folks are wondering, well, you know, I'm a finance major, so it's a natural opportunity for me to work in financial services. Or, hey, you know what? I might be a public relations major, or I might be in law, or I might be doing something else. And so I should start by saying that there's a place for every single major within the JPMorgan Chase organization. One of the pieces of advice that I will hint at and kind of prelude is that an interest in financial services is important, but we'll talk about that in a second. So the consumer and community bank services, our customers, we just released earnings today. So some of this information will be updated as our new earnings, revenues, and the like have been announced. But they work with individual consumers like you, me, on our banking needs. So maybe getting a mortgage, credit card, auto loan, so on and so forth. So that's one division of the organization. We can go to the next slide. So as Tony progresses, so she's graduated, she did an internship or did an analyst program with us. So we're really, really proud of her. She's thinking about starting her own company. And so she's like, how do I get capital to start this new small business or this company? So we can go to the next slide. So she still is working or is still a client of the Consumer and Community Bank. And so they serve 4 million small businesses. So just think about those businesses across the country where you live, your hometown, so on and so forth. And so they help businesses have needs as well. So helping these businesses with savings, checkings, loans, et cetera. So we can go to the next slide. So Tony is progressing in her career and in her life. So she's now 35. And this doesn't always have to happen succinctly in this sequence as somebody progresses through life, but she's thinking about how does she take her business now and develop a joint venture with a partnership in China, India. So she needs some advice on expanding her business. So we can go to the next slide. And the next. So she's going to go to the commercial bank. And so the commercial bank provides credit financing advice. Their clients are startups, mid-sized businesses, large corporations, commercial real estate. So they provide these types of services: treasury, credit, commercial lending, international banking. So if you think of, and I do not know if any of these are clients of ours, but if you think about some of the franchises, whether it be retail, whether it be within the restaurant industry, these possibly are clients of the commercial bank. We can go to the next slide. So Tony's doing well in her business. She's like, hey, now I need some expertise with companies operating in specialized industries. She needs some advice on how she can take her business global that might be interested in the assets within the US. So we can go to the next slide. And one more. So now Tony goes to the corporate investment bank. And so a lot of folks know that CIB or the investment bank, sales and trading, because it's glamorized in movies and television. And essentially they are working with, or their clients are corporations. So for instance, if Nike is in conversation to buy Reebok, then there is someone within the corporate investment bank on the Nike side, and someone from possibly another firm on the Reebok side of the house, trying to figure out, do we have enough money? Do we have enough capital? Is this a good decision for us? Do we grow our business through acquisition or some other means? So usually folks who are working in this division are working with corporations, asset managers, financial institutions, banks. Those are their clients, and they help these organizations raise capital, go public, do mergers and acquisition, provide advice, so on and so forth. So we can go to the next slide. So Tony's now doing really well. She's at the executive level in her career, has been for some time. And so now she needs to think about her own self, well, she's been thinking about it all this time, but she's amassed an amount of wealth, and she wants some help with thinking, how do I invest her money? So she wants somebody that she can trust to manage all her portfolio, and also think through what should she be thinking through. So we can go to the next slide. So then Tony turns to the asset and wealth management division. So we can go to the next slide. And this is the division that I'm responsible for all of the campus recruiting for this particular area. And so within AWM, Asset and Wealth Management, their clients are in twofold. So one, our institutional clients. So maybe we are managing the foundation at your college or university. We're also managing ultra high net worth clients. So individuals and their families. So think of highly successful business persons, athletes, entertainers, beneficiaries of who have inherited their wealth. And so the asset and wealth management line of business is helping with banking services. Apparently the small amount of money that I have to open up an account is a lot different with opening up a client's account that has $5 million or $25 million. And so there are a lot of things that the private bank helps with that extra level of touch and support. Also philanthropic efforts, foundations, so on and so forth. Maybe you have amassed a certain amount of wealth and you want to name a building or your dorm in you and your family's name. And so we help think through what is your legacy of your wealth. So let's go to the next slide. So Tony is now thinking about retirement. She's thinking about, what does she want life to be? How does she want to enjoy her wealth, preserve her wealth, grow her wealth, leave money for her children and grandchildren, define her financial legacy. Her husband has thoughts about how to use their wealth as well. Maybe he wants to buy a yacht or a house in the south of France. So we can go to the next slide. So before we go into corporate functions, on the last side, all of those types of things that we just mentioned, the wealth, our asset and wealth management division helps our clients think through their legacy, how to use their money. Just because folks have a lot of money doesn't mean they should use cash to buy things. There may be some other avenues to preserve, grow, maintain their wealth. And we provide advice and connecting them with other folks within the organization, which you'll hear from a little bit later, for example. So we can go to the next slide. So within any organization, with any academic institution, with any nonprofit, you have the businesses that are revenue generating. They make money for the organization, whether it be through a product, through a service. But then you have your corporate functions, your support functions, so on and so forth. Global technology is one of them. Technology fuels almost everything that we do here at JPMorgan Chase. And technology, they work on a variety of strategies, initiatives, cutting edge and breakthrough efforts to make sure that every time you use your debit card, it works. Every time you use your information, it is secure. That there are easy ways for you to access your money and easy ways for you to find out about your balances, so on and so forth. So a huge technology organization. Outside of us being a bank, we are definitely a technology firm. So something to keep in mind for those of you that are computer science, information systems, technology majors, so on and so forth. We can go to the next slide. HR, that's the area that I sit in. I support asset and wealth management, but I'm an HR executive. So we take care of all of the human needs that people needs within an organization, everything from bringing people into the organization, attracting them, hiring them, helping with professional development, leadership, so on and so forth, compensation practices, so on and so forth. We can go to the next slide. Our global finance and business management organization, huge organization. So helping make sure that we have the right environment and controls in place to support the business, to help the business make decisions. And so our finance organization, I have a finance partner that I work with on how many interns are we hiring? How is our budget for new initiatives that we want to drive and to try out? And so they're helping us think through these decisions so that we can make them in the most sound and prudent way. Next slide. Our internal audit division is helping us mitigate and manage risk. So making sure that we are a highly regulated industry. So making sure that we have the controls in place before we are tapped on the shoulder by our friends in the federal government and the other federal agencies to make sure that our processes are tight, that we have the right level of risk management and the risk appetite for the organization. So a lot of work that our folks in our audit division make sure that we do everything from compliance training to rules around adhering to federal regulations on licenses, things that we can do with it to grow and to maintain and to do business. You can go to the next slide. So we talked a little bit about Tony. I told you I was going to go through this really, really quickly, but we can go to the next slide. So this is what I consider like a placemat. So this is how it all works together. So we have our lines of business that we just mentioned, the consumer and community bank, asset and wealth management, corporate and investment bank, commercial banking. Then we have our corporate functions that help support all of the work that we are doing. And so what I want to do now is just, we can leave this on the screen for just a second, but I want to just transition a bit and give you some advice on, talk a little bit about recruiting and how this applies to you, those of you that might be looking for internships or full-time opportunities. We hire probably close to 4,000 interns a year. Our internship program is going on currently. So we're in the 6th week of our 9-week internship program. We have opportunities here in North America, in APAC, in EMEA, in India. And so most of the recruiting that we do for internship opportunities is along the lines of these different businesses. I believe we have about 30 different programs within these areas where we have internship opportunities. So a vast amount of internship opportunities. Same for our full-time. Most of our full-time hires that we hire into the organization are former interns. So my key or my advice is get an internship, because 9 times out of 10, if you do well in your internship, you are going to land or be awarded a full-time job. And all you have to do is go back to school your senior year, finish your senior year, and you'll have a job in hand going back to campus in your senior year. We have a number of other programs as well. We have a sophomore program that I provide executive leadership over. So it's a sophomore program specifically designed for Black students. We are expanding that to our Hispanic Latinx population as well for 2022. Currently, we have about 170 what we call Advancing Black Pathways Fellows that are spending about six weeks within our organization with the goal of them coming back next summer for a 9-week internship. And obviously hopeful that they will land or will be awarded a full-time job to start as an analyst in 2023. So as far as timing, we're recruiting right now. So banks, financial services tend to go first out of the gate as it relates to hiring for their internship program. So our applications close in September for 2022. So super important, and we'll make sure that we get this information out to attendees and to college brothers for sure. But want to make sure that you understand that our timeline is pretty fast, it's pretty aggressive, but it's also early. We also have efforts that happen every April of the year. For those of you that will be sophomores of next year, we will start recruiting for next year's program, and we have some what we call early identification programs to help you secure an internship, since we want many of you to be a part of our summer analyst program. So I'll transition a bit now to talk a little bit about just some general career advice, and I want to see what questions you have and be sensitive to our end time. But we've heard a little bit about my background. We heard a little bit about the lines of business within JPMorgan Chase. And as it relates to recruiting and interviewing, so my first piece of advice is do a bit of self-assessment. You don't need to know everything first. You don't need to have all the answers, know exactly what you do. I had no clue what I wanted to do when I was in undergrad, and I still didn't have a clue when I graduated. I knew I had a great internship and I had a job that I could go back to, but I still needed to figure a lot of things out. And so, but do some self-assessment and understand, hey, do I like big companies? Maybe you go to a big school, and maybe that's something that's attractive to you. So then maybe you like big companies, or maybe you go to a big school and you're like, hey, look, maybe I like more of an intimate setting. So I want to work for a smaller organization where you can have a little bit more of a hands-on with some of the things that are going on. So think about that. Think about other things that just that you gravitate towards. Do you like working with people? Do you like working with processes? Do you like working with things? Is there a way for you to combine all of those things, so you're doing a bit of both? So just do some self-assessment. My other advice is be best friends with the career services office on your campus. My team, we work with career services directly. We send information to career services. We may have a relationship with your dean or your professor or the Office of Multicultural Affairs, what have you, but we're going to go to career services first. And so you want to make sure that you're always getting the first information, or you're getting the information first from your career services office. So paying attention to who's hosting a information session, whether it be virtual, in person, career fairs, so on and so forth. And then make sure you are studying the industries or the companies that you are seeing that come your way. So just keep all those things in mind. So my next piece of advice is make sure you learn and hone in on your personal brand. And I think for all of you that are college brothers, it's super important. And for us that have been out of school for some time, I always want to make sure that my personal brand says that I'm confident, that I'm competent, that I am polished, that I know my stuff. And if I don't know the answer, I will follow up. And my follow-up is even better than what you saw when you first interacted with me. And I also want to make sure that I am known to be the go-to person and a fixer. And as I've interviewed for other roles, as I am engaging with individuals that I am meeting or have continuous relationships with, I want to make sure that everything I do, from how I show up, how I look, how I dress, how I present, how I present information, illustrates and reinforces the personal brand that I've set for myself. And so I would encourage you to do the same. As you start to do interviews, many of us companies are doing video interviews where we're responding to a prompt. Preparation and practice is key. So a lot of times, sometimes we are socialized to, put on our good suit, and maybe we don't necessarily ask people what kind of questions are they going to ask us? Or maybe, you don't know someone that works at this organization that you have an interview for. Find out, ask career services, ask your network, use LinkedIn, get the answers to the test, essentially, quote unquote test. But do all of that preparation work, because your colleagues or your competitors who are doing the same thing, they're doing exactly that. They're calling up and saying, hey, who do I know? Who's a friend? Who's a first year analyst that I could ask, what's the interview process like, so on and so forth. Also practice what you're going to say. Don't just write it all out to get your thoughts succinct. But then also practice with someone that can provide you feedback. A lot of times what we have in our head or how we think things are going to sound come out very differently, especially the first time. So you want to make sure that you get comfortable with your voice and you practice all of those things as well. Also do your industry research. What do I mean? So if you're interested in financial services, great. Follow things like, this is not an endorsement, but follow things like Morning Brew, read the Wall Street Journal, get alerts on your phones from CNBC. Also make sure that you're cosmopolitan in your approach. So know a little bit about a lot of different subjects. So what's happening in entertainment? What's happening in government and politics? How does that impact financial markets? Regardless what industry you're interested in, and let's say you're working for financial services, or if you're working in one of the support groups, like I mentioned, I've always worked in HR, but I've worked for entertainment, I've worked for financial services, I've worked for home improvement. So what are the issues, the key things that are happening within the HR industry? Are there organizations that provide knowledge and insight within those different industries, so on and so forth? And then practice, like I said, practice it. Like for those of you who are athletes or understand what athletes do in preparation for games, practice like you're an athlete. Practice and make sure that you are ready to go when it's game time. Also, or practice for those of you who are, might be musicians, practice like it's a performance. Try and figure out what, like what's your style, what's your communication style, how can you hone in on your messages and all of those things, and also seek out people that you can chat with to get advice and just perspective. It doesn't mean that you always have to do what you say, but I always tell a lot of the college students that I work with, mom, dad, family are always going to have an opinion and be in your ear, but you need to make sure that you have a space where you can talk about things that you are interested in and be able to sift out all of the voices that are coming your way. Because you want to make sure that you're confident and you're competent in your approach. And I think that will take you a long way. So with that, I'm going to stop there and see if we have questions or things or topics that you might want me to speak on. But thank you for this time. Absolutely a joy and a pleasure to talk about this subject, and really happy to share some information and hopefully some wisdom.
Absolutely, Brother Blocker, and thank you so much for taking the time today, and you really dove in and really provided us a lot of gems and a lot of jewels here for the alphas in the room. It looks like we have our first question on the screen there. I'm not sure if you can see it, then I'll allow you to answer it.
Sure. So the first question is, how early should you start your internships? And so, we're seeing a lot more internships. There was a period of time where the market, 2008, we kind of went across industries where there weren't a lot of internships for freshmen, sophomores, so on and so forth. I'm seeing a lot more of that happen. But even if you don't get an internship after your freshman year or your sophomore year, that's okay. Learn how to articulate your experiences. They're transferable skills, and each thing that you do is going to provide you with skills. Growing up, my first internship was after my freshman year through the Inroads internship program. But prior to that, I played the piano for church, and I cut grass. And so now I know how to articulate that a lot better, but there's nothing more, I learned a lot as it relates to dealing with different personalities, from playing the piano with a number of folks, personalities on a choir at a varying level of skill and experience. And so how you respond to things, your people management, all of those things, those skills you don't even think about matter. Second question, do you provide employers resumes and cover letters or just your resume? I think both are fine. What you want to be able to do is just make sure you define your narrative, especially if you're changing industries. Let's say you are a history major and you want to work in investment banking. A cover letter may provide some perspective on how you are part of investment clubs on campus, how you follow the markets, those types of things. Although you may be a history major, you want to illustrate that you are interested in that particular industry. So use your cover letters to highlight things that may not jump out just from your resume. Does GPA matter, or is experience better? So some organizations still look at GPA. We don't look at GPAs as an official part of our application process. I'm no expert in academic or the academic institutions view on GPAs and calibrating it from one institution to the next institution. But what I would say is you want to make sure that you illustrate, like if you have, what is perceived as a lower GPA, but look, maybe you're working, maybe you are paying your way through school, maybe you're doing a thousand other things. That's a great place where you can use your cover letter for that, but make sure that you have a way that you can articulate that. I mean, we can usually tell, the person who has the low GPA, who has little on their resume except for they partied right through May. So you want to make sure that that's not your story or your narrative, but you're doing things to help define your brand in the most advantageous way for where you want to take your career.
Absolutely, Brother Blocker. Again, thank you so much for that. And I think, do we have time for one more question here? You might answer one more for me, at least. I know there was something that stuck out for myself, and I'm sure that our college brothers would be excited about this. And I'm thinking of myself as a junior, maybe a senior, transitioning as a finance major. And I heard, and I saw a brother posted in there about the early recruitment. I think you briefly touched on that. Would you mind kind of giving us a little more information about early recruitment?
Yeah, absolutely. So, depending upon the industry, right? And this is why you need to understand how the different industries work. When I worked in entertainment and campus recruiting, it seemed like it took forever for us to start the recruitment process because I was just so used to the financial services timeline. But within financial services, specifically within JPMorgan, we start recruiting for the next summer's internship opportunity in first quarter, second quarter of the year prior. So what do I mean? This past March, April, we started doing recruiting efforts for summer of 2022. We also started doing things specifically targeting underrepresented students in March, April of this year. And we have been doing that for a while. We know that our underrepresented students are highly sought after. So in order for us to be competitive and for us to get the information and get, hopefully make our opportunities attractive, we do recruit that early for our internship opportunities. There are absolutely internship opportunity, or the process still continues through September, October. However, financial services specifically, you do not want to wait until May of the summer where you're finishing your junior year looking for an internship at a bank. That's not what you want to do, because they will have been already filled by that time. So our applications are open right now. Many of you probably have come through our early identification program. I know because I've seen some of the mentions of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated on your resumes. So excited about that. We want to see more, but we want to make sure that you're right in the timeline to do so. So we'll get information out, but they're open right now for summer 2022.
All right, Brother Blocker, you have opened the floodgates here. I see we have many questions coming in, and I think one that could be good is, I had a brother ask here if they can have your contact information. Would you mind sharing your email for brothers to contact you offline?
Yeah, absolutely. So I can, or somebody can put it in the chat. You just tell me what the best way to do it.
I posted it here for our technician, and she'll grab that and put that across the screen for us there. And I know we're short on time here as well, and want to be sure to leave you with the final comments. And I see we have some questions that I'll be sure to send you after the call.
Okay, excellent. So like final comments, like I mentioned, do not be afraid of this recruiting process. However, do not do it by yourself and don't do it alone. There are people here. I share my contact information. Feel free to reach out to me. What I always say is, if I don't hear from you, I can't help you. And so, and sometimes, obviously, I hear a lot from individuals looking to get opportunities. So you may have to reach out twice. You may have to reach out 3 times. Don't just use LinkedIn as a way to connect, but reaching out directly. And then keep in touch. So, but don't do this process alone. Make sure that I always say, a lot of times, Black students, underrepresented students, we're socialized to go to school, keep our head down, make good grades, graduate, get a job. That ain't how it works. Some of our non-Black colleagues are told, go to college, have the time of your life, study abroad. We'll help you with our networks and getting an internship. Make sure you get an internship, and then you'll have your senior year, that job where you can just finish your senior year and then continue to have the time of your life. And so we want to make sure that we bridge that so that you are enjoying your college experience, understanding that, many times, I had to work in the summers in order to pay for school in the fall, but it was through an internship. But you are savvy and and you've asked, my passion is making sure that I am providing exposure and awareness to a lot of the things that we may not have learned through parents or from our schools or our upbringing, so on and so forth. So there's a whole world out there for you to explore. I want to help make sure that you do that. So don't be afraid to keep in touch and let's partner together to do that.
Absolutely, Brother Blocker. And again, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon for our pre-convention event. Good brother, you kicked us off in the right way. And I see the questions and comments are still coming in here. So I'm going to be following up with you to send you lots of questions to hopefully get some answers that we can share with the brotherhood. And we're really excited to be working with JPMorgan Chase. Really excited to know that you all will take out the time to be a part of our convention virtually this year, which we hope to be something into the future. And with that, we're going to sign off for our first of two double features. Please feel free to hold on. We'll be starting the second one in just a moment. Thank you. All right, everyone, and we're back for the second of our double feature today. And in today's double feature, we'll really be focusing on start where you are and fuel for your journey. We'll be joined by Chase community managers, Ken Frazier, as well as Brandon Mills, and we can bring them up on the screen here and we can get them going for our second one. How we doing today, gentlemen?
All right. Good afternoon.
Doing well.
All right, we're excited. Well, I'm gonna pass the mic over to you, brothers. Brother Blocker didn't take it easy, so he set the bar high.
Yes.
But I am more than confident that our brothers are going to get a lot from this conversation. Again, thank you all so much for joining us for our pre-convention event today, and it's all yours.
Yes. Well, thank you. He definitely set the bar high. A lot of good information. Please make sure that you are, grabbing a pen and paper if you haven't had a chance to yet, to gather some of this information, because this is a great opportunity for you guys to get ahead for the ones that are in school and share some of this information with other brothers. So first off, thank you to the men of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. Welcome to today's session with us is your financial journey. Start where you are and fuel your journey is what we're going to do today. My name is Ken Frazier. I'm joined by my colleague Brandon Mills here, and we are community managers with JPMorgan Chase out of Miami and Chicago. So some of you may have heard, some of the things that we do in the community, and some of you may not be aware at all. But in October of 2020, JPMorgan Chase announced a $30 billion path forward commitment. Okay. Now, what is this? This is put together to provide economic support to underserved and underbanked communities and break down barriers of systemic racism. All right. So it's particularly to attack this systemic racism that exists. So Chase has completely redesigned branches across the country, and they're going to feature new community-inspired models offering financial health resources like skills training, small business pop-ups, tech innovations, to local residents and local leaders. Huge initiative. As community managers, we're aligned with these commitments of taking our business from community banking to community building, here to build up the community. And how do we do it? So we engage the community in the business to increase awareness that's available to our resources and help connect the community with financial health tools, products and services. This can include, facilitating financial education topics like today. We do a various amount of them built around credit, budget building, home ownership, small business, also interviewing and job search skills, and other topics that help you on that road to financial health. So just keep that in mind. So today we're going to do just that, and we're going to assist you with your financial journey. So my colleague Brandon, over to you. Let's get them started.
All right. Thank you so much, Ken. Can we go ahead and bring up the deck, please? Again, you can go ahead and go 2 slides ahead if you don't mind. Thank you. Perfect. All right. So thank you again, Ken. My name is Brandon Mills. I'm a community manager in the Chicagoland area. I'm originally from Memphis, Tennessee, so my roots do search back to the South. Ken and I we're going to be your session leaders for today. Overall, this session should provide you with tips for setting financial goals that you can actually stick with. Okay. I'm going to kick off this session. Y'all can start talking into the chat box for you guys a little bit with one question. What do we mean by financial health? I'll repeat. What do we mean by financial health? We as community managers, we feel financial health is about helping people accomplish 3 things. Manage their daily finances, that's the first. The second will be prepare for emergency expenses, that will be second. And last but not least, reach long-term goals. I'll repeat that one more time. 3 things that we want to accomplish as far as helping people with their financial health. Manage their daily finances, prepare for emergency expenses, and reach long-term goals. Before we begin, I'm going to set the stage a little bit. We have about 45 minutes. We've already built in some time for you guys to be able to ask any questions, concerns, or anything of that nature, to be able to provide feedback, some of your personal experiences as well, because this is a highly interactive session that we want to make sure we do. Can we go to the next slide, please? So let's review, and I'll go line by line. During our time together, we will do the following. Think about how our money supports our journey or not. And what we mean by that, that's you understanding needs versus wants when we're dealing with our money. Secondly, there will be build on your financial knowledge. Everyone is at different stages in their lives. We have some brothers that are actually in college, some of them that are outside of college that are already moving on. They're more mature into their career. Understand that we have to start somewhere, wherever it is, as long as we start, and then we build moving forward. Thirdly, create a roadmap for our financial future. That's creating those financial goals with the help of a complete budget. Us as community managers, we hate to talk about that word as far as the B word. We like to call it the B word, but Ken is actually going to touch on that a little bit later when he actually gets into his portion of the presentation. A savings plan. All right, explore how the next bullet point is explore how a savings plan can support your financial journey. I think this is crucial. A savings plan can breathe life into your financial journey. I'm gonna give you a little scenario. Like most of us, we may be into the health kick right now. We may take the everyday multivitamin or the everyday supplement. It serves 2 purposes. One is to prevent illness, or prevent sickness. The other is to enhance what you're trying to do, whether it's to lose weight or to build a little bit more muscle or anything of that nature, just health-wise speaking, okay? So that savings plan is going to be integral to what we're trying to do as far as our financial journey and our financial health. The last bullet point was incorporate your savings into a roadmap for our financial future. That's really just putting it all together, okay? All right, on to the next slide, please. So here's what we need from you today. I know you guys have already utilizing the chat box, and like we said, like a little bit later in our presentation, we're going to designate some time for you guys to ask as many questions as possible as far as what we have time for. Participate. Please provide your perspective, provide your thoughts, your feedbacks, personal stories, so on and so forth. So, second question for the group. Write it down. What gets in the way of our financial goals? Again, what gets in the way of our financial goals? Could it be life in general? Life is hard. Life is not necessarily always easy. Could it be health circumstances? A little bit over a year ago, I had to have an emergency surgery. Wasn't expecting it at all, but it happened. How about our emotions? Sometimes we don't necessarily equate money with emotions, but my colleague Ken is going to actually hit on that a little bit later as well in the presentation. Money definitely can be emotional at times. Last but not least, how about COVID? Like, we're probably at the end portion of the COVID season, but I'll share a personal story with you guys. COVID tested my emergency fund. It really tested my emergency fund. I give you the scenario. I'm the proud father of twin boys. They're about 8 years old. They were just finishing up their second grade year. The previous year, they were actually in school, of course, going to school, taking their lunch, taking their snacks and all that good stuff, going to school, having a good time. Now with COVID, of course, we've transitioned over to virtual. Now they're at home. Same thing goes for my wife. She's actually an educator, and now she's teaching home from school, doing virtual classes from school. So now, can you imagine two Chromebooks as far as both of my boys? My wife's having a Chromebook, and now she has her laptop as well because she's teaching class as well. And I say all that to say, now they're at home versus being at school or being at work or anything of that nature. So as you can already imagine, the electricity bill definitely went up a little bit. With everyone trying to do everything virtually, now you got 3 different Chromebooks, you got a laptop, everyone's trying to be on the internet. I had to upgrade my internet a little bit as well. I had to increase the bandwidth so everyone can operate and not necessarily have any feedback or have any or any static or anything as they were going through their learning. And then I ended up finding out how much my boys' appetite actually increased as well. You never know until they're actually at home. They're actually just sitting there and they're learning, they're eating, they're learning, they're eating, they're learning, they're eating. And so as you can imagine, my grocery bill actually doubled during this time as well. On to the next slide, please. So financially speaking, when we decide what we want to change, how do we decide what to do with those obstacles or roadblocks? Whether it's recalibrating because of COVID like I had to do, beginning a rainy day fund, or reducing debt. So this slide right here is actually the agenda that we have for you today. Again, we've already kind of talked about start where you are. Everyone is at different points in their financial roadmap and in life in general. Pack your bags, or is it baggage? Now, that focuses on recognizing whether our money history, our money behaviors, or our money beliefs are characterized as bags that can help us on our financial journey, or can it be baggage that can get in the way? Now, my colleague, again, like Ken, is going to kind of dive a little bit deeper into that. I think you're going to love the analogy that he's going to bring up, and I think you're going to love it. Then we talk about savings. Like I stated earlier, savings is like gas in a tank. Now I'm going to use my automobile analogy that moves us in the direction of our financial goals. Savings can also serve as the first line of defense for our financial health as well. And with any good conversation, as you already see, yeah, we got a little homework. Some of us that are still in college, we're still going to survive use a little homework, but it's good homework. I'm like, this is homework that's not necessarily just going to take care of you right now, but this is going to be something that's going to carry you all the way into the time that you start your career and you finish your career and you're into retirement, and now you're building your legacy. In addition to the homework that we're going to ask you to do, I want you to identify an accountability partner. Like, I know it's on the slide, but that's probably one of the things that you can definitely have, whether it's one of your brothers. Like, for instance, for me, it's my younger brother. Like, he's that one person that's going to keep me disciplined and is going to hold me to a certain standard. During the session today, I would like you to identify and write down one financial goal you would like to attain at one defined point in the future. I'm going to repeat that. Take your time, write it down for us, okay? Identify and write down one financial goal you would like to attain at a defined point in the future. Can we go to the next slide, please? So that one thing that I'm asking you to write down, ask yourself the following. What is your current situation? What financial goals do you have to support it? And what could possibly get in the way? I'm going to repeat that because that's not necessarily right here on the slide. What is your current situation? What financial goals do you have to support it? And what could possibly get in the way? As you think about your current situation, and what might be keeping you from achieving those goals. Take notice of the way you frame things. Language is very powerful. I repeat, language is very powerful. For example, I could say one of my biggest challenges is my lack of discipline to achieve my goals. That could have a little bit of a negative connotation to it versus saying I need a better plan to achieve my goals. Not only that is more positive, but it's more actionable, is actionable. Can we jump to the next slide, please? So let's jump right into it. What is a goal? It's the object of a person's ambition or effort, an aim or desired result. A financial goal gives you the direction and can guide your actions. Goal setting helps you stay on your path, even when competing financial priorities get in the way. I'm going to repeat that last part. Even when competing financial priorities get in the way. Now, we all have these, right? I'll give you an example. The car breaks down. You have an emergency surgery like I had. Or a kid gets sick. Or a kid hurts themselves and they have to go to the hospital. Not wishing that on anybody, but that's life. That's how it happens sometimes. But your roadmap and the goal that you have is going to help you stay on track and reach the goal you have when it comes up, when things come up, and sometimes get in the way. Can we go to the next slide, please? Now, goal setting is great, but we have to make these things, we have to put those goals into reality. A simple and great way to do that is actually making your goals smart. While we all may be at different stages in our financial journey, our goals will become more actionable when we lay them out in the SMART goal format. So we already see it right there on the slide. We have specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time bound. So as far as the specificity of the specific, like as far as this example, I want to have a rainy day fund saved in a savings account. Now, that rainy day fund, it could be still in your checking account, or it could be up under the mattress. But by being specific about it, you're saying, hey, I wanted to put that in the savings account. Measurable, I think that's self-explanatory as far as my target is $200. Achievable, I'll set up a budget and prioritize saving $10 a week for 20 weeks. The key word in there is that B word again. You see that budget. Like I said, Ken is going to get to it. What we mean by that is the fact that making it achievable, you have to understand that budget piece to see if you can even afford to save that $10. So I won't dive much further into that, but that's what we're talking about, okay? Relevant. So that's when emotions come into play. So you already see what's written out right there, but it's all about the emotions when the relevancy comes into play. And last but not least is time bound. November 30th will be 20 weeks from today. That accountability partner could come into play and check in with you on a monthly basis to make sure you're staying on track towards that goal. And then on November 30th, you want that accountability partner to be that person that's going to call you and say like, hey, congratulations, because I know you already hit the goal because I've been checking in with you on a monthly basis. As we transition over to the next slide, my colleague Ken will take over from here. Thank you. Ken?
Wow, Brad, thank you, man. Appreciate it. A lot of good information. That SMART tool is one of my favorites. And the reason I say that is because that can be used in so many different parts of our lives. It's not just based around financial. So anytime you find yourself wanting to accomplish a real goal, utilize that SMART. It's pretty good. I've been using it for years, so take that one in. But right now, what we're gonna do, we're gonna talk about the impact of our beliefs, and what how they affect our thought process and our money behaviors. That's what we want to touch on a little bit, just real quick. And the reason we want to identify these things is because, what you say matters. We never know how it will be interpreted or, for ourselves, let alone someone else that's around us and that hears it, right? I'll give you a perfect example. You can have two kids that grow up in the same household, raised the same way, and those kids grow up hearing, similar to a lot of us here, we can't afford it, put it back. Don't touch nothing when we go in the store. We can't afford it. Put it back, right? So with those two kids, you get one. One kid grows up, he says, I'll never I'll never live like that again. You know, and he saves every dime. I mean, this guy's frugal, cheap. Frugal, whichever word you want to use, but he won't spend a dime. The other kid, same thing. I'll never live like that again. Same response. But this kid spends every dime. Can't take 3 nickels and save. Can't save up 15 cents. You know, so when you think about, you know, your core values and you know, what your attitudes and beliefs about money, you know, and are they helping you or are they harming you? You have to identify those things. You know, are they helping you or are they harming you? So we have to think about those things in the context of, you know, how we live with our money. You know, do your money history, your money behaviors, do your money beliefs, the bags, you know, does your bags add up? Do they help you on your journey, or is it baggage? Do you need to let it go? You know, does it get in the way? So it's important to know that our beliefs about money can either help us or harm us on our financial journey. Very key to understand in the beginning. So I want you to take a second and think about this real quick. So you have your pen and your paper there. So think about, you know, your ideal life. You know, what are you doing in this ideal life? You know, who are you with? Who you're spending time with? Think about your happiest moment, maybe your proudest moment. And then jot down a few words that kind of define your most important values. Okay, just take a quick second to do that. And we can go to the next slide. All right. Now, doing this a few times, you know, and you know, this is what we do. We do financial literacy, and we get some of the same answers. You know, some of the words that describe people's values typically are family, you know, mother, father, brother, sister, you know, trust. Another one that's popular, friends, security. You know, those are some of the words that are very popular in these sessions. And you know, what do you notice about these words that I mentioned? You know, they're emotional and they're different for each one of us. What one word may mean to one person doesn't necessarily mean the same to the other. So it's our interpretation, it's our experiences that are behind it that really leads to what it means to us. You know, are there any dollar signs with those words? Not one dollar sign with them. So, you know, and that's because most people don't have financial goals. You know, they have life goals with financial implications. That makes sense? You have life goals with financial implications. So, you know, when we're talking about people, you know, they want for their lives, you know, when somebody says, I just want to make a lot of money. Yeah, we hear that a lot. You know, I just want to make a lot of money. It's never because they just want to have a lot of money. It means something else. It's usually tied to something else, you know, and that's going to vary, obviously, right? So it's about underlining the attitude or belief one has about how we live with our money. What are we going to do with this money? You know, I have a goal to buy a house. I never want for anything. I want to make sure my kids can go to the college of their choice. You know, all of those type of things will determine how and what the value is. So every decision that we make is either moving us closer to that goal or it's moving us further away from that goal. And sometimes, you know, our behaviors are out of alignment with what matters most to us. We have to kind of bring things back together a lot of times to stay focused. So that's why we do some of these jogging your memories. That's why we do some of these exercises to really keep you and have you hone in on that. So, you know, we've heard the phrase, everybody's heard it, you know, opportunity cost, or maybe even this one, scared money don't make no money, right? Yeah. You know, this really refers to like, you know, missed benefits or, you know, that would have been derived if an option was chosen or not chosen, you know. So, but what I like to really, you know, talk about is everyone has different values. And how we earn, save, and spend, they're all personal decisions. No one gets to make that for you. What's going to be that, personal choices. So just keep in mind that when you say yes to one thing, that you are saying no to something else. And that's just the reality. When you say yes to one thing, that you're saying no to something else. And that's okay if you're comfortable with how you ideally want to spend your money in your value system. These decisions are yours, no one else's. It's about being mindful about your decisions to stay on target and stay on track for your goals. So now we come to where the rubber meets the road. All right. Now we've talked a little bit about how to identify what our goals are. We've talked about how we map out where we want to end up, right? So we've identified short, medium, and long-term goals. Make sure you do that. Go back and do that if you haven't done it so far during this exercise. And we've discussed, what harms and what can help you with these to meet these goals. So the question is, gentlemen, men of Alpha Phi Alpha, what do you need to do to get you where you want to go? What do you need to do to get you to where you want to go? Next slide, please. So, there are a lot of ideas around financial topics, right? The bottom line is there are really only 3 things that you can do if you're not happy with where things are now for yourself, okay? There's only 3 things you can do. I don't care who, how many degrees and titles behind the name. It's only 3 things that you can do. And one, you can make more money, spend less money, or a combination of the 2. That's it. It's not rocket science. It's the only thing you can do. It's that easy. Every other possibility falls somewhere along those 3, no matter how you mix and match it, right? So what do you need to get to your destination? Looking right there at the slide, we said increase the income, increase your savings, increase your savings, improve your credit score. How does that help? Improving your credit score. Okay, let's speak about that. Improving your credit score helps drastically because if you don't have a credit score, or if your credit score is low, you're going to pay more for all the credit that you have. They're going to tax you double in some cases. So that's definitely an area, if your credit score is higher, that you're going to actually save money. So that gives you another incentive on keeping up with your credit score, or identifying and building a credit score. Decrease your debt. Don't go crazy. That first credit card you get, for an example, my first credit card I got in college, 19 years old. I treated it like it was free money. I went in advance the whole $500 on the first day I got that card, because at that time I was getting probably $50 a month from my parents if I was lucky and my grades stayed up. So to have $500 at one time, I thought I was rich. That's the most money I ever thought about even having at one time at that time. So decrease your debt. Don't fall into some of those bad behaviors. A lot of you all have heard about them, about them. So don't fall into those, And then there's others. So just continue to put those things together and see which ones work for you, right? So, go to the next slide for me. I'm sure a lot of you, mentioned savings on your as goals for yourself. So, as a way to meet your financial goals. So let's talk about the savings piece a little bit. I wanted to make sure that we got some time in on that. And, how your saving goals fits into your overall roadmap. Especially, when you think of competing priorities and all those things that, we want to happen in our lives. We still want to get nice things. We still want those new Jordans, you still want to get that new Gucci or, that cologne, whatever you like to do, with your funds. So, don't forget and don't put too far in the background, your savings. They use a phrase in finance. It's called pay yourself first. Okay, pay yourself first. That's how you can get ahead, drastically, by paying yourself first. So why is this so hard? The concept, and sometimes it's so hard to do. You might be thinking, I told, I set myself, I was going to save, but I can't seem to do it. There's always something that gets in the way. Well, guess what happened to a lot of people here in recent months to year? COVID got in the way. COVID got in the way. So, maybe your savings goal you need to start one first off. And then at this situation, maybe you need to reset it because it got thrown off track. Your emergency fund, it got thrown off track, but as long as you keep paying yourself first, it's going to allow you to have some type of direction and some type of order with the fact that you have goals. You're being intentional about what you're trying to do and what you're looking to do. Okay, so remember that one. Pay yourself first. Next slide, please. So whether you're starting out, as mentioned, whether you are recalibrating or taking your savings to the next level because you've made or met one goal or another, what can you do to increase that, your savings goal? Well, life changes and life adjusts. What life was like 6 months ago may not be the same as what it is now, right? So you want to take that all in consideration of where you want to go continuously. Be thinking down the line because things can and will change. Things can and will change. That's one guarantee in life that something will change. Okay, so we can make it easier for you if you have direction and guidance when it comes to that. And that's why we're here today. So if you can, next slide for me. All right here. Let's spend a little time on this slide. And the reason I want to spend time, because this is one of those action pieces, because we want to give you some tools and resources and simplify these things because we don't want to be too high, and thinking about, how hard it could be and talk about that too much. We want to see how easy it can be. Think about it. Let's look at this slide. Small changes can make a big difference. If you spend $1 less every day, look what happened in 1 year, $365. Look at it in 5 years, $18.26. In 10 years, $36.52. And you think about it, $1 a day is not, and that's an average. It can be an average. It doesn't have to be literally that you're saving $1 a day. Don't make it difficult. Those are targets. Maybe on some days you save $3. Maybe on some days you don't have that dollar to save. Maybe you just do it by check. Okay, every check you get, you can put, the days in between, 14 days in between getting paid, you put 14 days over. Needless to say, you create a strategy. Remember that SMART plan. That's actionable, right? That SMART plan is actionable. As long as you have actionable plans, you will do just fine. You will do just fine, gentlemen. Next slide, please. Now we're going to talk about that B word, that Brad talked about earlier. Get your minds out the gutter. Get your minds out the gutter. But that B word is budget. One of the simplest and hardest things that we tend to have in the finance world, is that budget. And that's why, when you ask someone about the budget, they might have an overview of what they have or what they do or what they spend, but rarely do people, unfortunately, sit down and do the real work behind it. So what's your thoughts, when you come up with the word and you hear the word budget? Think about that. Some people cringe a little bit, because they don't even know where to begin, let alone have they begun. So, you want to build that though. So what comes to mind when you hear the word budget? You may be thinking about planning, how much you spend, some structure. As we talked about earlier, an important first step is to understand first what's coming in and what's going out. So that's the first piece to identify what's coming in and what's going out. All right, that's the simplified piece of it. I invite you to start, with knowing what you're spending on a day-to-day basis. That you consider what you do regularly. Knowing what's coming in and going out, knowing what you get paid. What's the difference? After taxes, after everything, what are you bringing home? What are you bringing home? Focus on these things first. Really analyze what's going on with your cash flow. Not what is normal per se, but, I should say that, but, what's normal, but more importantly, what's needed, right now so that you can make the best decisions on making a successful plan. So, assess, what's really happening right now. What's your living expenses, the light bills, the gas bill, the mortgage, the rent, the internet. You have to have internet these days. Without internet in the homes, it can be very challenging to get and do things. So we cannot do without these things at this particular moment in juncture in our lives. And then recognize, that you're also going to have some lifestyle expenses, right? You don't want to save every penny and not enjoy the fruits of your labor of going to work. So, those are things that, make life better. They enhance your life. You might want to buy a new car. Maybe it's a goal. If not, if the car broke down, you want to get a new one. You want to have a family night out. You want to go out with the guys, have a few drinks. Those things are important too. Do not, allow yourself not to enjoy some of it, because really what it does is it deters you, makes the challenge or puts challenges and roadblocks and becomes baggage. So you want to make sure that you do that, So we have tools here at Chase, and probably with your bank, check with your bank. We have tools that are available to you to help you with these things, like auto save. We have budget builder. Those things are found on chase.com. Just a shameless plug for Chase right there. So make sure that you identify what those tools are. If money is going out, more money is going out than coming in, you are going to have a shortage. Basic understanding, right? If there's more money coming in than going out, then you're going to have a surplus. So identifying those things help you just identify some of those simple pieces of understanding right there. So this is what lets us know, what is available for our other financial goals, like savings. You can't really save if you are at a shortage or at a deficit month over month. So identify, readjust, put those things in place. So when people, when people ask me, they say, how do I get people to do a financial budget? I say, hey, no, I don't get people to do anything. I basically what I do, I help people determine if, what they're currently doing is getting them where they want to go. Is it getting what you want? Okay. If it's not, then let's sit down and do some things that help you get there. And if the answer is no, that's what we do. We figure out what is needed. If the answer is yes, then, hey, you're fine. Continue to do what you're doing. Clients will tell me, they need to do a budget 99% of the time, unfortunately, but at the same time, fortunate, because they understand that they need help and want help, and they tend to do better when they do those things. So first things first, we need to know how much money is coming in each month and what our expenses are. Whether we have a surplus or a shortage is a great takeaway for that particular portion. So when you're thinking about starting to save or revisiting, your current savings activities, want to consider your income, expenses, and then, like I said, don't forget your family situation, because it changes. Next slide for me, please. Now, one thing you'll hear a lot about as well is, and this we refer to as a jumpstarting or refueling. So jumpstarting your rainy day fund. And you say, what's a rainy day fund? All right, well, rainy day fund is pretty much, if something happens, as Brandon talked about, his surgery, his rainy day fund, was used up a little bit, because of that. But the good thing is he had it. Had he not had a rainy day fund, he wouldn't have been able to carry through possibly with that. Maybe he had to get a loan or something like that to continue or to take advantage of, the opportunity to have the surgery, right? So consider your income, your expenses, the family situation again, access to loans and other credit, how quickly you can find or, a comparable job if something happens. So that's the reason you need that. For an example, people say, 3 to 6 months is a good time frame. And what it is, let me back up 1 second. Rainy day fund pretty much is to cover your expenses, and just in case you lose your job or you don't have any further income coming in. So let me back up and not assume that everybody knows what that rainy day fund is. So it's money put aside to cover expenses for roughly 3 to 6 months. Myself, I like to recommend 9 to 12. And if you've lived through this COVID period, you'd understand that, hey, in times these days, I would give myself a little bit more time to have money to support paying, because mortgage don't stop because of, you lost your job. The bills don't stop coming in because you lost your job. So that's what that rainy day fund is for. So we want to make sure that we put ourselves in a good position to cover those expenses for our family, during those times. Next slide, please. So when will you do it if you haven't done it? You know, I invite you to start with knowing your spending habits that are bad and spending habits that are good. So know what's coming in again, know what's going out. So definitely take that on. So start with your budget. Set the amount and the frequency. Remember, go back to the SMART plan. That's why I keep referring to it, because it's key when it comes to action. With all the information, does nothing if you do not have action. We call it financial literacy versus financial health. So in order to be financial healthy, you have to take action. You know, set it up and forget about it. You know, set it up with autosave. I pay myself every check. Automatically comes out of my account and goes right into another account. That's the pay yourself first method that we talked about. Make sure you're setting that up if you want to be successful. Save your tax refunds and the raises. You know, if life has been going good at whatever you're making, don't increase the expenses if you got to go. Take those additional earnings and put them into the savings account. That tax time come around, you got $4,000 or $5,000 tax checks. I've seen them. Now, that's not me. I'm not that fortunate. But you get $4,000 or $5,000 checks coming around, you know, at tax time. Don't go spending it all up, you know, buying the biggest TV that you just bought a new TV last year. You know, relax. Take some of that money that's tax refunds and savings, put them aside, save them, add it to your rainy day fund. Get caught up on the goal that you had financially. Get caught up, you know, get ahead onto the next goal. You know, get ahead, pay off some student loans, pay it off early, pay off that credit card early. Because remember, if you pay off that credit card early, what are you doing? You're paying down interest that you would have been paying. Pay that debt. Remember, pay the debt down. Pay the debt down. You know, so ask your bank or your credit union, if you use that, about autosave. It's a great tool. Next slide, please. All right. So staying on track. You know, stay focused on the journey. You know, check it. You know, your actual spending monthly. You know, I can't handle monthly myself. I'll be honest with you. I'm a 6-month type of guy. I want to forget about it for real. That's me. I don't check it but once, twice a year. You know, I know it's there. I know it's not going anywhere. Security wise, I'll see it. It'll send me an alert if something moves, because I put alerts all around it in case it moves. But that's it. For security, I'm not touching it. I'm not looking at it. I don't want to know. I want it to be hidden because I want to continue to build it, and I want to take away the temptation of using it. So, but check your, you know, actual spending, you know, and your actual savings on that. Review your goals and progress. You know how you're doing. You know how you're doing. And so you can reward yourself when it's time to be rewarded. So you can pick it up if you need to pick it up. You know, those things are very important. Next slide, please. All right. So y'all heard Brandon in the beginning. You know, he said it was going to be some homework. Nah, don't worry about it. This is easy stuff right here. You know, this does not take brain power for this one. These are things that help you, you know, help you. You got to be willing to put the work in for yourself if you want to see change, if you want to see a difference, if you want to see yourself grow, you got to put the work in. You know, you all are members of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, and I do know that you take some pride in accomplishing goals. So if this is going to be a goal for you to be financially healthy, then take it serious. You know, organize your financial documents, get it all in line, get your stuff together. You know, gather your documents, you know, post your goals up someplace. You know, I'm a visual person myself. We do vision boards, do that type of stuff, you know, that keeps you motivated, keep you pushing forward. You know, use your calendar to track milestones. Hey, man, I was targeted to get to, you know, $1,000 in 3 months, and I got there in 2 months. Yay for me. You know, accomplish goal. Check. Next goal. You know, complete your budget. Actually do it. Make it make sense. Make it, make it comparable to exactly where you want to go and exactly where you want to be. You know, make it, you know, realistic. You know, take the time to get those documents to identify what those real expenses are so that you can get there. You know, track your spending for a month to confirm that the expenses you thought you had is what you had. You know, you say, hey, I go out to eat. Somebody asks you off the cuff. You know, I go out to eat every other weekend, probably spend about $100. When you go back and look, like, hey, hold on. Man, I actually spent about $250. I didn't even realize I was spending that much. Trust me, gonna happen. Guarantee it's going to happen. You're going to find an opportunity within that month. You know, what is one thing you will do to make progress towards your goal? Ask yourself that and answer it. Ask yourself that and answer it, because you have to do something to get to where you want to be. You have to do something to get to where you want to be, gentlemen. All right. Next slide for me. All right. So what we want to do is, if it's any questions, you know, I want you first off to, you know, if it's any feedback you want to send us, we're going to leave our information. Any questions, you know, that we don't answer today, we'll get to it. Send us, you know, a question or two, and then love to hear some success stories from you guys. You know, these things really matter. Very passionate about what we do when it comes to financial education, and want to know that we're making a difference. So, you know, we'll take this time to answer any questions that's out there. You got something else you want to add first, Brandon, before we do that?
No, I think it's great. I'm like, so it looks like Mr. Johnson, he posed a question in the chat. Even if we can master these principles, do you think it would be beneficial to seek a financial advisor as well?
Yes. Yes. And the reason I say yes is because when you are accomplishing the savings portion, and I always say it's very hard to save and become wealthy. You have to do a little bit something different outside of saving to become wealthy. So that's where that financial advisor can really put you on the track to make sure you're in the right products, you know, for one, and that you're taking different strategies to really maximize your full potential. It's not just about saving anymore, you know. So that's just the first step, but definitely always look for a financial advisor and professional to help and assist. Always a good one. Good question.
Yeah, Ken, I'll add to that. Keep in mind, like a lot of times we work for companies, they offer 401k plans, they offer 403 plans. Make sure you do your research on those and see what these companies are offering you. A lot of times companies match up to a certain percentage. That's free money. You need to do that. That's free money. As long as you're with that company and you're gonna end up being invested with them, those are funds that you're gonna be able to carry to whatever other firm you end up going to, or to be able to roll over to your own retirement accounts as well.
That's great suggestion. Great. Yeah. Any other questions? All right. Well, it looks like you know, you all have been enjoying in the kickoff, and congratulations on your week. And hopefully you all continue to have some great sessions and educating each other on some of these things that are very, very key to the success, you know, of our future. And any older brothers are on there, you know, continue to pass these words down and these words of wisdom, and go trap a brother up somewhere and, you know, talk to him and give him some of them old stories. You know how it goes. But, you know, good talking with you all, and wanted to thank you for having us.
All right. Thank you all so much, Ken and Brandon as well. Thank you for joining us this afternoon for our pre-convention double feature webinars hosted by JPMorgan Chase. I know brothers received a lot, as well as our community members that also joined us today as we celebrate our 96th General Convention. We thank you all so much for joining us, and have a good evening.